It is the year 2472, and the Earth has suffered a great calamity. Hundreds of years of popular culture have vanished. Without the sacred films and texts for guidance, civilization is devoid of anything cool. Then, 3 incubation chambers are unearthed, and from within, men from the time of the great blockbusters emerge. Now, through highly interesting conversations, they share invaluable insight about what once was. The movies, the shows, the comics, toys, and books. This is
The Hyperspace.
Podcasting in the 25th century.
Welcome in, podcast pioneers, to the hyperspace. Podcasting in the 25th century. The interweb's first and only podcast. My name is Jared.
My name's Matt.
I'm Mike.
Season 4, guys.
Kicking it off.
Man, I know it's been a while since we've released a regular episode, but Season 4, I hope you will find it has been worth the wait.
Got some great stuff coming up this season.
Yes, we do.
It's our best one yet.
It is.
I can't wait to find out what it is.
It's going to be fantastic.
What's everyone been up to in the hiatus?
Well,
I've been recording podcasts.
Hey, listen. You're not supposed to tell them that. That's a little inside baseball, isn't it?
Oh,
No. Hey, you know, we did put out a full Rocky and Creed retrospective over our hiatus.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah, so we haven't been completely out of the podcast game. We like to keep some content trickling down.
That's true. You know, it was funny. My parents came up to see my family up in here in New York. I haven't seen them in like a year and a half because of the Cove. And the first thing my dad says to me was, "Hey, have you seen Kong and Godzilla movie?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did see it." Now, my dad's like 76 years old. I'm like, "Did you see it?" He's like, "Yeah, it was a great movie. I love that movie." So it just makes me laugh to think that my dad's watching King Kong and Godzilla battle it out.
That's
76
fine.
years old.
That's the way it should be. That sounds like my father.
I like that movie. I'm glad that there's fun, stupid movies out like that now.
Now, of course, we are not. Mike is the expert here. Let's be absolutely 100% clear.
Yeah.
But it was probably my favorite of the post-2014 Godzilla string of films. What'd you think about it, Mike?
well, I liked it, but I've liked all the other ones too. So I think, but I think they've each been kind of different. The first one was a little bit more of a slow build. Second one was like a straight up fanboy film for anybody who likes Godzilla. And I'll even lump in Kong, which, was fun. And then this was, a spectacle. Definitely wasn't, I liked the fact that they really went hardcore with the science fiction and the Hollow Earth and all that stuff. I thought that was really cool that they did that. And it looks like it's paying off for them. So maybe we'll get some more.
Yeah, it's Kong and Godzilla could be responsible for bringing life back to movie theaters.
Maybe.
Who'da thunk it?
Did you go see it in the theater, Mike?
No, we watched it on HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
They wanted, we almost went to see it. Why didn't we go see it? David really wanted to see it, but for some reason we didn't.
Well, it is fun to know that movies are coming back in some form or another, especially in the theaters, as they slowly bring life back to them. I saw The Croods, actually, with my kids in the theater. That was a funny movie. But it was fun to be back in the theater, too. Like
The Croods is several years old.
No, this is the new one.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
This is the new one. And it was funny, and I had a great time. But you know what? This is the first time I think my kids remember, at least my son doesn't remember going to the movies before. Like, it's been a while. And now he's 5, so he doesn't really remember going to the movies. So, like, he was having a ball. He couldn't believe his luck. He had a big thing of popcorn and candy and this giant movie in front of him. It was a great time. And I'm glad that's coming back finally. And,
I think 5, like you said, 5 is an age where you start to retain memories of things like that.
That's what I'm hoping and figuring.
Well, we had a small little theater open here, and we saw a couple movies. I took the boys to see Monster Hunter, and the theater was empty, so I let them sit in the back by themselves. So I think they probably got a big
Oh, that's
charge.
a big deal.
Yeah, that's
When you
big.
don't have to sit with your parents anymore.
But, in the age of YouTube and quick media and, not waiting for something and always having it at your fingertips like these kids do now, I'm hoping that movies like in the theater stick with them and, they get that kind of fun experience that you just can't get watching it on your phone or your iPad or your, sitting at home on Netflix. And
Even though you show all the cool movies to your son in YouTube clips on a phone.
It's true, you do. But it makes me think, it's one of those things where movies are such a big part of our lives. We quote them left and right, nonstop. It's what we do. My God, I spent, 20 years talking movies instead of doing my job, with Jared and Mike on my headset. So I think today we should share out some of our favorite movie quotes anyway.
I think that is a great idea.
Oh, thank you.
Movie quotes.
But I'm
That's
not.
very spontaneous of you.
You like that?
Yeah.
It's almost like.
It's a planned segue of some type.
Well, before I segue into our segue, I'm going to. I think we should drop some news on them.
Oh, let's do it.
News from the interwebs.
Bad Batch. May the 4th be with you. We're recording this right now on May 4th, and the Bad Batch is released.
Yeah, it just came out today, as a matter of fact. So I hope you did something Star Warsy on May 4th. Last night after midnight, I watched the holiday special cartoon that's on Disney Plus because I wanted to see how it looked. And,
Hello, friend.
The quality is
Boba Fett.
the quality of the cartoon's pretty decent on Disney Plus, but they did put it on Blu-ray a few years back. But so I watched that, and then I got up probably about 8 o'clock this morning and watched The Bad Batch. Mm-hmm. And I got to say, I know Matt hasn't quite had time to watch it yet, but it feels like the Clone Wars is once again back with us. I really thought it was a solid sequel to that series. Mm-hmm. We have in the past had companion podcasts to The Mandalorian and the Clone Wars. As the future of Disney Plus unfolds, there's just going to be so much content that, I just don't think we are going to be able to just, between the three of us, find time to record a podcast for every single thing that comes down the line. But we do want to let you know we are going to be talking about The Bad Batch is in a continuation of our Cloning It In series. And we're going to do a few episodes dedicated to the series during its run and then once it's wrapped up. So we will be talking about The Bad Batch, but we're just not going to be dropping an episode the day after each episode airs. It's a lot to do. So we will, but we will, of course, continue to keep you up to date. And I can imagine, though, when Book of Boba Fett and The Mandalorian return, we'll probably be back to discussing those. That's our news from the interwebs, is that the Bad Batch companion show is coming. So just be patient, young Padawans. We will be talking about the Bad Batch very soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch it as soon as we're done doing this recording tonight.
All right.
I can't wait.
Fantastic.
Movie quotes for 600.
2006. This is Sparta. Stephen.
What is 300?
Right.
Movie quotes 800.
1995. What was in the box? What's in the box? Stephen.
What is 7?
Yes.
Movie quotes 1000.
1973. The power of Christ compels you. The power of Christ compels you. Emily?
What is The Exorcist?
That is right, and you're now in second place with $1,000, and we're taking a break. We'll be back in a moment to see me give some more bland...
So I have to tell you, I spent many, many decades of my life quoting movies to random people over and over. I think half my college experience was spent just quoting movies.
Yes, I am the same way. my friend Al, he would just randomly blurt out something, go, "What movie's that from?" And he still does to this day text me and say, "What movie?" It's something I think that all of us have done in the past.
Yeah.
And
well,
present.
whenever you meet people, that's almost kind of like a, I guess like some people talk sports, some people talk not sports. And then, sometimes when you get in a group of people and then you just kind of mention a movie or something, and then like 10 or 15 minutes later, you're just laughing at quotes and stuff like that.
That's right. It's like instant common ground. And I think I can speak for myself that when I first met Mike, that was great sound.
Wrong. You're wrong.
When I first met Mike, that's something that, I guess Star Wars was a shared language between us. And he initially shunned me and was a giant a-hole, but he came
you want me
around.
To tell that story or save that for another time?
No, go ahead. It involves movie quotes and me trying to be your friend.
Well, what happened is you came in at a really bad time because you came in right before another guy came in, and he was really into Star Wars, and we thought, this guy's really cool, and then within like 2 weeks, we were like, oh my gosh.
Why did we talk to this guy?
Yes, we couldn't get away from him fast enough. So then here comes Jared. Oh, I like Star Wars too. And we're like, sorry, buddy.
And I'm sitting there. I was like, and I think I interjected like, oh yeah, I really enjoyed playing Dark Forces.
Yeah,
and
I had this game booklet laying on the table, and poor Jared was like, I have these games. And we were like, that's nice. And we just kept on talking.
And I was saying to myself, what a dick this guy is.
You're not the first person to say that.
We're here 23 years later talking on a podcast, so I guess it worked out. And
but the same thing happened with Jared and me.
Exactly.
When we started working together, it was... we were quoting the random movies like Karate Kid and Teen Wolf. Of all
yes. Yes.
We're probably one of the few people who quote Teen Wolf on a daily basis. So,
yep.
Good for them.
But that was, with me and Matt especially, it was, there were a lot of Karate Kid and Teen Wolf. And we would just, everybody else thought, what the heck are these guys talking about? But, that was, again, it was our shared language, quoting these movies.
That's right.
I think as we get rolling here, I'll kick it off. For me, anyway, we are going to be playing these clips, and in me personally, some of these are funny, and some of them are just quotes that I really like. Maybe not so funny, but quotes that I enjoy. But I did tell Matt before the show rolled, I'm avoiding personally low-hanging fruit. Some of my clips are things that, a lot of people would know, but there's not any Star Wars in mine. We just finished a bunch of Rocky shows, and while full of inspirational speeches, Rocky is not present in my list.
Okay.
So, and none of us has heard the others' picks. We're all hearing this together for the first time.
That's true. All right, you ready?
Yeah.
Let's listen to the first one.
Gozer the Traveler. He will come in one of the pre-chosen forms. During the rectification of the Voldrani, the Traveler came as a large and moving torb. Then, during the third reconciliation of the last of the McKettrick supplicants, they chose a new form for him, that of a giant slore. Many Shubs and Zools knew what it was to be roasted in the depths of the slore that day, I can tell you.
So that's Louis Tully as Vince Clortho, as played by Rick Moranis. And forever, I have loved that quote, and I've made it my mission, even like back in high school, to memorize. I wrote it down on a piece of paper, what he was saying. And one time when I was working at Shop at Home...
I was wondering if you're going to bring this up.
Yes.
If you weren't, I was going to.
I typed this entire speech as a crawl and ran it on the air during a knife show where we were selling knives. And the host, Tom Odell, goes, he called me Bullet. That was my nickname. He goes, "Hey, Bullet, what are we telling them down there? What is that?" I was like, "It's okay, Tom. Don't worry about it." So I love that speech. I love the way that Rick Moranis just completely sells spewing this nonsense
Well, he
for
says
a minute.
it very matter-of-factly.
Yeah.
That's sort of like, what's that part where he goes, I can tell you that day. It's sort of like...
That day I can tell you.
It's just sort of like just reaffirming, like talking about a great football pass or something.
Yeah, it's just amazing.
That movie couldn't have been cast any better.
Who was originally supposed to play that part?
You mean Rick Moranis' part?
Yeah.
No, who?
John Candy.
Oh,
man. Well,
and then you had
he didn't
John
understand
Belushi
the
supposed
part.
to be Bill Murray's part. I mean, it was supposed to be a completely different cast, but the way it wound up was just such a stroke of luck.
And there's an honorable mention in that movie for me was
You're right. No human being would stack books like this.
That every time I hear that makes me laugh. It doesn't matter if I've watched it a million times.
Such a good movie.
But yeah, that's mine.
I'm even a fan of Ghostbusters 2. That's like a guilty pleasure.
There's some good stuff in part 2 for sure. So,
Mike, what are we starting with you? What's your first?
Well, I figured since we're going with speeches, this is a semi clip 8. It'll be it's sort of a speech, but I think the movie this is one of the funniest. In fact, at one point I tried to use it as a message on my answering machine, but my phone was it was back before it was like when digital recording was burgeoning. So it basically came out like, and I remember Jared called me and then he was like, dude, I have no idea what your phone message says.
I don't remember this.
So anyway, this is I just love this movie. I love this clip, and it's a great performance all around.
Now, that brain that you gave me, was it Hans Delbrooks? No. Good. Would you mind telling me whose brain I did put in? And you won't be angry? I will not be angry. Abby someone. Abby someone. Abby who? Abby Normal. Abby Normal. I'm almost sure that was the name. Are you saying that I put an abnormal brain into a 7.5-foot long, 54-inch wide gorilla? Is that what you're telling me? Quick, get it up!
Gene Wilder is, I think Gene Wilder's performance there with Marty Feldman is just, it's just top notch. That's one of those movies that's unfortunately you never enjoy it as much as you did the first time you watch it, because the first time you watch it, there's so much. It's almost like a horror movie. When you don't see the scares coming, Young Frankenstein is like you don't see some of the jokes coming, and the second time you watch it, it kind of hurts it a little bit because you know what's coming. But that scene is just the build to Wilder's freak out. It's got such great lines. The whole Abby Normal thing. Such a great play on words.
Oh, so good. That's one of the few comedies that I don't think I've ever met anybody who doesn't like that movie. I remember my parents watching that movie when I was a kid. I remember that being on every now and then. It was just so funny. It was one of the few kind of like adult comedies that my parents would let me watch.
I didn't see that movie until I lived in Nashville, which was in the late 90s.
Really? Oh,
yeah,
man.
But I did
like that scene where Gene Hackman slams his mug into the monster's hand and breaks the mug in the look. That whole, there's so many great sequences in that. Oh, it's so funny.
And when he locks himself in the cell, oh my gosh. Let me out. Let me out.
Get me out of here. I was joking. So good. Such a funny one. All right. Well, hell, if we're playing a little bit of speeches, I'll give you a little speech here. This one isn't a comedy, but it is kind of funny. This movie came out when I was in college, and I remember we all kind of wanted to see it, and we're like, let's go check it out. It might be cool. And this movie was like endlessly quoted and acted out drunkenly probably for the next like 3 months after we saw it. But this always made me laugh when I heard it.
Him, that can't be William Wallace. I'm prettier than this man. All right, Father. I'll ask him. If I risk my neck for you, will I get a chance to kill Englishmen?
Is your father a ghost? Or do you converse with the Almighty?
In order to find his equal, an Irishman is forced to talk to God. Yes, Father. The Almighty says, don't change the subject, just answer the fucking question.
Mind your tongue.
Insane Irish.
Smart enough to get a dagger past your guards, old man.
That's my friend, Irishman. And the answer to your question is yes. You fight for me, you get to kill the English.
Excellent! Stephen is my name. I'm the most wanted man on my island. Except I'm not on my island, of course. More's the pity.
Your island? You mean Ireland?
Yeah, it's mine.
Stephen
made that movie.
Yeah, he was hilarious when he first popped up. He was like, man, look at this guy. Up to that point, that movie had been a lot of, killing people's wives and a lot of darkness. But yeah, there was, it's funny that Brendan Gleeson, who played Hamish, is Irish, and the guy who played Stephen is Scottish. But, they just did a little flip there. But yeah, that's great. Man, I haven't watched Braveheart.
Did you get to see that? You saw it in the big theater when it came out, right?
Yeah, I saw Braveheart several times on the big screen. I quite enjoyed it.
Yeah, I saw it in the theater. It was kind of interesting if you look at it, that it really kind of was the template for what would become Mel Gibson's career as far as movie making goes.
Yeah, and it was like one of the first big like epics I'd ever seen in a theater. 3 hours, and you've got thousands of extras and giant battle scenes and stuff. At that point,
I guess like Dances with Wolves was the closest to it.
Yeah, but then you have to go back like years to like Spartacus and Ben-Hur and stuff.
That's a good point. Yeah,
but they hadn't made a movie like that in a long time. So,
and it kind of brought back Brian Cox.
Yeah, it did, because he played his uncle in that film.
Yeah, and that was kind of like what brought him, because after that he started showing up more and more in films.
Yeah, he was always around after that. You're right. But Braveheart was one of those endlessly quoted.
Oh, yeah. And I tell you what, I love Longshanks in that movie. Patrick McNee.
Oh,
he had some great... Who
is this person who speaks to me as though I needed his advice?
And then another one of my favorite lines is, he goes,
Duchess.
I beg pardon, sire. Won't we hit our own troops?
Yes. But we'll hit theirs as well. We have reserves. Attack!
Attack! I've been wanting to revisit that for a long time. Is it out on Blu? It seemed like it went out of print for a while.
No, it's on Blu-ray. But I think I have the Blu-ray, the Gladiator Braveheart 2-pack Blu-ray. But it's on Blu-ray. So,
Patrick McGowan was in an Iron Maiden song.
Oh yeah, I called him Patrick McNee. Good grief! Are there those who believe? I'm getting my Patricks confused here.
Don't.
But okay, so I'm up next, and I'm not trying to bring the room down here, but go ahead and play it there.
I didn't think it would end this way.
End? No, the journey doesn't end here. Death is just another path. One that we all must take. The grey rain curtain of this world rolls back, and all turns to silver glass. And then you see it.
What? Gandalf. See what?
White shores. And beyond, far green country and to a swift sunrise.
That isn't so bad.
No, it isn't.
Gandalf. I love that speech.
Sure. Great movies.
And,
well, it's a great lead up to the next scene.
Yeah. And I think the reason... I tell you what, like, the Lord of the Rings movies are aging very well for me. Like, every time I watch them, I just think they get better. And that particular scene, him and Pippin are kind of huddled down, waiting for the door to be knocked in, and fully expecting to die. And it's a beautiful scene played by Billy Boyd and Ian McKellen. It's just, I think it's just a great moment. Something like, I don't know, reassuring. And I've always liked it. And there was like, when my grandpa Talkstein died in December of 2006, I flew up to Illinois to go to his funeral. And at the hotel where I was staying, TNT was showing the Lord of the Rings movies. And so after, the day of the funeral and hanging out with family all day, I came back to the hotel room, and this scene was on. And on that day, that like hit hard, like on that particular day. I mean, and that's why I think I remember it so much. It just made me, think of my grandpa and everything. But still, in all, it's a great scene and one of my favorite speeches from the movies.
Yeah, such a good. I mean, and Howard Shore's music.
Oh yeah, he's hitting a grand slam.
Just so good, so good. It's kind of funny. Yeah, I remember when these movies were finally coming out on DVD. Do you remember how many versions all of a sudden these things started to come out with?
Well, they eventually they had the theatrical and the extended.
God, yeah. I think Jared and I tried. I think we were at first going through like all the special features, and I remember like the special features being like 10 times longer.
Yeah, it's like each movie has like 12 hours.
And after you watch those documentaries, you can actually make Lord of the Rings.
Oh my God, it was just like taking a full course on filmmaking. They were amazing featurettes and behind the scenes.
Plus the technology that they were developing, we got to really see it from the ground floor. Like, because they were literally creating this technology at the time.
With Massive and all that.
Yeah, Massive is a huge thing that they developed.
Maybe that was part of the reason why, it holds up so well, is that when you start getting those, like, the massive shots, they are kind of from afar. There's not a lot of the up close.
Mm-hmm. Well, the close stuff was in camera. That's why that movie
That's
works.
What I mean. It's like when you see the CGI, it is far away, and it is not meant, and you see it to get the scale of it. And that's why it's impressive. But, in-camera stuff is what saves that movie and keeps it alive.
And not to go down a rabbit hole, I think that's where The Hobbit fell down a little bit, was he kind of pulled a George Lucas and just went crazy with the CGI. And
I haven't seen the last part of it. I've lost complete interest in that series.
That's too bad. The Battle of Five Armies, especially the extended cut, is pretty...
I'll get to it eventually. You know what it is? I was such a fan. I'm a big fan of the books anyway. But The Hobbit, I've read The Hobbit countless times, many times. And I was getting so disappointed with the movies. And coming off such strong movies, the Lord of the Rings trilogy was so strong. I thought The Hobbit was just weak. But that said, I should watch the last one just to watch it. But, it's kind of treading on personal territory when it starts to mess with The Hobbit. And they messed with it a little too much.
Yeah.
But that said, great speech, great quote, great movies. Mike, what do you got? What's next? What are we listening to?
Well, I'm going to get away from the speeches, and I'm going to go with the line.
Do it.
Clip 4. This is, I'm going to set this up a little bit. I think it's a funny line, and it's funny because of the situation they're in. And I love the description this character gives at the current situation that they're engaged in. So let it roll.
I don't know what the hell's in there, but it's weird and pissed off, whatever it is.
Bennings, go get Childs.
It's weird and it's pissed off. There is no better way to describe
it's weird, it's pissed off.
What they are in having to deal with at that time. And in case you didn't know, that's The Thing. John Carpenter's The Thing. And it's a scene where the dogs are about to transform in front of the men's eyes. And so anyway, I love it. There's a lot of lines in that movie that make me laugh, and that's just one of them.
That's a great movie. I follow on TikTok this guy in the South Pole. He's in Antarctica, and he's in the main station at the South Pole. Okay, so he does a lot of these quick videos, and it's fascinating, the stuff that he does. But he says that every time somebody new comes to the station, which is not often, that they have a screening of The Thing. It's mandatory that they have to watch it, which I think is pretty cool.
Oh, it's a great movie. It's very that's the thing about balancing humor, because the movie is bleak. It's a very bleak movie.
Yeah.
But then you have lines like that, and I like the couch line as well. I don't want to spend all winter tied to this effing couch. Stuff like that. It's a great cast, great movie, and yeah, that's it.
Well, it holds up too. I mean, the practical effects are
great. Rob Bottin.
Amazing to watch, and I mean the movie. I think it's as watchable now as it was when it came out.
Yeah, it's one of my top favorite movies of all time, no doubt.
But it's so good. I'll keep the ball rolling here. We're going to
Zardoz has spoken.
That's not it. Forget Zardoz. I don't know why he's in there. All right, we know Zardoz.
What
leave Zardoz alone.
You doing?
Zardoz doesn't belong. We love Zardoz, but not for this.
I think you should leave that in, by the way.
Oh, it's totally gonna stay.
Thanks, Mike. I'll set this one up, and this movie was one of my favorites when I was a kid, and I didn't have it on VHS, and whenever it came on, it was like a great day. And this movie, it didn't get enough credit at the time, and it's just now I think being recognized, and there's things that are happening because of it. But I'll play it,
You are great. You are great.
You are great. Man, Willow was one of my absolute favorites. I love that movie.
I've quoted that line so many times.
It's so good.
Great.
That 80s adventure fantasy movies that the 80s were so replete with, it was just so good. And it just didn't get enough credit when it came out.
Val Kilmer is so great in that movie. I mean,
Yes.
he is really just... He's a good actor. I mean, don't get me wrong, but he makes that movie really... he elevates it.
He's like a movie star. He's a star. Yeah. He has charisma,
but Willow was a fun movie. I don't know how well. I haven't seen it in a long time. I don't know how well it holds up now.
You know what? Well, me and Mike watched it a couple years ago together, and it holds up pretty well, except for the brownies. The brownies are terrible.
Yeah, they are. They're bad.
It is pure George Lucas miscalculation.
Yeah,
is what they are. It was just bad.
I wonder if you edited out the brownie sequences, like the main focused sequence. Not all of them. You can't get rid of them because they're integrated in some form or another. But what if you took out some of the horrible sequences? If that movie would play better,
probably.
I don't know. I just remember when I rewatched it a few years ago, and I was like, oh my gosh, these things aren't funny at all.
No, not at all. But yeah, that's one of my great missed opportunities, Matt, is when I was sitting next to Warwick Davis.
Oh, yeah.
I should have told him to tell me, whisper in his ear, hey, tell me you are great, when I won the trivia contest.
Man, you schooled him, and you scolded him, basically, anyway. So he owed you that.
Yeah, he did. But,
Yeah, fun fact. You know why Lucas made Willow?
Because he couldn't make Lord of the Rings.
He could not get the rights to The Hobbit.
Yep.
Oh, well, there you go.
So, and he couldn't make Flash Gordon, so he made Star Wars. That turned out a little different, though.
I like how his brother is in every movie, but couldn't be in this one, so he made the dragon in the face of his brother.
What?
Who, Clint? I didn't know that.
He made the dragon look like his brother?
Yeah.
Well, his brother, Clint, is not an attractive person.
No, not at all.
Well, go back and look at the dragon.
And
I have no crew, Captain. Oh, man. Goodness.
Keep the train rolling, Jared. What we got?
There could not be a movie quote show without this in it. And I'm sorry if I've stole someone's, but this is just let it play.
Very first light, Chief. Sharks come cruising. So we formed ourselves into tight groups. You know, it's kind of like old squares in a battle, like you see in a calendar, like the Battle of Waterloo, and the idea was shark comes to the nearest man, that man he starts pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you, and those black eyes roll over white, and then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and in spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in, they rip you to pieces.
Quint. Yeah, that's just a great scene all the way around.
I debated that one to add on the list.
I thought I might have been taking somebody's, but I just took a shot.
Robert Shaw was so good in that role. And in fact, that speech, if that speech hadn't been in the movie, Jaws still would have been good, but it wouldn't been nearly as memorable as it was. Robert Shaw really just brought such an authentic feel to that movie. He was so good.
Yeah, and he wrote that speech. Like, I believe it was in the script, but it
was in the script, and then John Milius rewrote it, and then Robert Shaw rewrote it.
Well, and it's that was for a lot of people, myself included, was the first time they'd heard about the Indianapolis. Mm-hmm. That was like their introduction to that story, which is a horrific story with all the people who were killed by sharks. Yeah, the first time I saw that, I was like, holy crap, is that a true thing?
Yeah, but when I saw it, I was really young, and it didn't like click to me about what he was really talking about. Like, I didn't understand the gravity of that. So watching it later on,
yeah,
you still love the movie, remember as a kid, but you watch it and you pick up more like that kind of stuff. You're like, oh, that's what he's talking about. It's like, oh man, and that's what makes that movie so good.
Yeah,
but
it's one of my favorite speeches in a movie ever.
Oh, absolutely, so well delivered. I wonder how many takes that was done in.
I don't know. There's this interesting clip on the internet of Richard Dreyfuss. He's at some talk show in Ireland. This is in the last few years, and he meets Robert Shaw's granddaughter. Mm-hmm. And like he met her backstage, and they talked and everything. But he gets really emotional, like talking to her.
Which is funny because they didn't get along.
Yeah, and it's if you can find it, it's just like you just look up Richard Dreyfuss gets emotional about Robert Shaw, and it's kind of an interesting clip. But yeah, Robert Shaw killing it.
Have you seen his son do the impersonation of him?
Robert Shaw's son?
Jaws? Yeah.
No, is it dead on?
It's dead on. He looks just like him, and he did it for like a promotion to. I think he was crowdfunding for like He was going to make a documentary about his father, but he did it as Quint. The whole pitch, and he was.
Is it on YouTube?
It's somewhere. I'll forward it to you guys.
Okay.
But it's so good, and you're like, oh man, it's just crazy how good he is. It looks just like him.
Wow.
Jaws, always a good one.
Yeah.
Mike, which one we hitting?
11. I'm going to stick with the somber. I'm not going to really introduce this. I'm going to let it play itself.
You must think me a very sinister doctor. Oh, I do have a permit.
Seems to me you're just plain scared.
Yes. Yeah, I am. I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up, because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
Man, Jason Voorhees.
Better shut your trap. Oh, I'll drive down to Florida and kill you.
You got evil behind your eyes, Mike.
That's the great Donald Pleasance in Halloween. Not only is it great writing, I think sometimes John Carpenter, his writing skills are not really appreciated like they should be. But, the great thing about that scene is, you have the villain is someone who never speaks a word, is completely, wears a mask, is a blank slate. So you have to have his antagonist, really set up the fear for him. And, in that scene right there. It actually, one of my favorite lines in that speech is the very first part of it where he goes, "You must think me a very sinister doctor." I just love that line. It's just so you just never, it's so original. You never hear that ever. But it's so perfect for that scene. But anyway, I think, that's one of my favorite movies, one of my favorite directors, and it's a great moment for that film.
Yeah, listen, Halloween, Mike Myers, one of the big 3 of the horror triumph, what's the word?
Triumvirate?
Triumvirate. The big 3. Mike Myers was Mike Myers and Jason Voorhees both kind of brought that the slow stalking, no matter how, they were still slow, they weren't fast moving, but yet you couldn't get away from them. There was nothing you could do to get away from these creeps. And that was always a fascinating thing to watch these movies. They weren't fast running at you, crazy things. They were lumbering, and even though you just couldn't get away from them. And that made them even scarier. The Mike Myers thing, I didn't see Halloween until I was, I think, in college. I didn't see it as a kid. I saw the other franchises as a kid, but Halloween never came on my radar. But that one scared me. That one scared me. And he was a creep. He was, I think when you look at like Jason Voorhees and Mike Myers, because they're both obviously the 2 masked heavies of the 3. Mike Myers always had that kind of like mystery about him.
Yeah, just
you don't know if he's a person. You don't know if he's dead. Or you don't know what he is. Freddie or Jason Voorhees, you kind of figured was, from another world. But Mike Myers, you never knew what you were going to get.
Yeah, I just watched Halloween over this past Halloween season for the first time in like 20 years. I appreciate that it is a kind of a slow burn. Mm-hmm. It's not like a modern movie at all. And, I think that can turn like a lot of certainly younger moviegoers off, but I appreciated the slower pace and the build. It did a very good job with that. And it's the first time I paid any attention to it in the last 20 years. And I really enjoyed it. Good choice, Mike.
Yeah, I'm going to keep the John Carpenter theme going. I'm just going to jump right in.
Jack, here. What? Hollow. Fuck it. Wow.
Listen, Jack Burton is one of the greatest characters ever written in all of cinema history. Big Trouble in Little China is one of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. It's just absolutely just a gem from the 80s that shines brighter than most. It has every great element of every 80s kind of movie, from the way they dress to the blue lightning effects to the cheesy plots, the great music. It's so good. And to me, it's John Carpenter has a slew of great movies, but that's my favorite one.
That one's just a great fun movie. It's just, it's like even for a movie made then, it's a very fast paced movie. And it's like one of those movies that once it goes, it doesn't really stop, but it stays entertaining the whole time. And Kurt Russell's character is so likable that you just enjoy watching him on the screen.
He's so funny. He's like he's always John Wayne. He always has to have the macho line, the over masculine way of acting. But it's just so funny to watch Jack Burton. But it's a great movie. It's I don't know how well it holds up to new generations, but it's a must watch on my list.
I need to watch that again. The last time I watched that was at our friend Brian the Collector's house when it was on HBO in the 80s.
Oh, that's a long time.
That's a long time.
That's like my kind of like rainy day movie to put on. That's a good one.
I need to watch that again.
All right, we keep this ball moving, this train rolling.
All right, is it my turn?
I think it's you.
This doesn't require much setup.
What am I going to do with you people, huh? I held up my end. I delivered to the blue boy. What do I get from my triple threat? Bow, yield, kneel. That kind of stuff closes out of town.
Why do you say this to me when you know I will kill you for it?
Oh my gosh. Heard Jared say that so many times.
I said that daily in my life.
Man.
I say that to my daughter. I say that to my wife. Like Mike says, I mean, it's just something I have said since I was a kid. Why do you say this to me when you know I will kill you for it? General Zod. That's from Superman 2. And, I think Hackman's got a funny lead in there, too. Like, what am I going to do with you people, huh? Yeah, so Terrence Stamp, General Zod.
Still the best Zod.
And he's eminently quotable. Of course, Kneel before Zod is probably his most famous.
Kneel before Zod!
But, why do you say this to me is something that I've carried with me for decades and probably will continue to carry with me.
Mike, what do you got?
Well, play number one. Just play it.
General, would you care to step outside?
Superman!
Superman, thank God.
Get him!
Superman, thank God.
Superman. I saw that movie as a kid. Now, look, unfortunately, Superman 2 hasn't aged well. It has problems. But when I saw that movie the first time, and he flies up to that window with his arms crossed and delivers that line, that is a classic stand up and cheer moment. And you can, and especially with Christopher Reeve, you just can never diminish that. Just, it's such a great guy thing. Care to step outside? It sounds so small. Usually it means two guys are going to get into a drunken fisticuffs on the sidewalk in a sloppy drunken brawl. But what this means is there is about to be a battle royale of the likes that the earth has never seen, and it's preempted by care to step outside. Such a great moment.
I know this movie doesn't hold up as well, but I'm really thankful I saw this as a kid because this was a perfect movie to watch as a kid. If I had seen, if I was an adult when this came out, I probably would have enjoyed it, but not nearly as much. And this was hands down at the time my favorite Superman.
Oh yeah, as a kid, absolutely.
As a kid, and it was just so much fun to watch. And you're right, when he showed up and he's back, you were cheering, you were fist pumping. You're like, oh yeah,
oh
Superman's
my gosh!
Get him.
And
as a kid,
Hackman, Superman, thank God. That even as a kid, I thought that was funny. And he's like, get him,
so good.
Oh man, Superman 2. Yeah, you're right. I'm glad I saw that as a kid because I can still enjoy it as an adult. Like if you're an adult watching that movie and you'd never seen it before, you'd be like, "Oh, this is kind of crappy." But you
especially compared to the first one. But
yeah, I know. I mean, the first one's a vastly superior movie, but part 2 definitely has its charms. So
yeah, it's almost like there's parts that are good and parts that are not good.
Yeah, like the ones that Richard Donner did.
Yeah, Richard Lester directed.
Yeah, but yeah, great choice.
I'm going to the well where one of my favorites as a kid here.
Damage report! Guidance system out. Auxiliary steering out. Divert! Divert! She won't answer the helm. We're locked into the moon's gravitational pull. What do we do? We die.
The last Starfighter. Come on.
We die.
Talk about accepting your fate.
The Last Starfighter was one of those. It was one of the first movies I saw as a kid, where my parents dropped me off at the theater, and I just thought that was one of the coolest movies that I had ever seen. Great music too, and but it's you against the universe kind of story. It's it had everything that a kid could get behind at that time to watch, and it was so fun. It was new, and nobody had seen those kind of graphics really put together like that. Tron had a bunch of shame soup that it would try and feed you, but The Last Starfighter was really the first movie to really utilize computer graphics in that capacity. And nobody had ever seen anything like that. And to watch that in theater was something special. Now, I mean, you watch it now for the first time. If you've never seen it, you probably laugh it off. But back then, it was a big deal. And it was a great story. It was a lot of fun. And that movie has stuck with me for years. I always hoped that they'd pull off a sequel. It has some of my favorite, compositions put to it. That music, that score is great.
Yeah.
And Last Starfighter, man, it's one of my favorites.
Good choice. I figured if I was a betting man, I knew you would probably work that in here somewhere.
There you go.
So back to me. Why don't we do my second alternate?
Sure. Here we go.
Well, what on earth is this thing I'm wearing?
Well, this is a radiation suit.
Radiation suit? Of course. Because of all the fallout from the atomic wars.
I love the way he just comes to that conclusion like it's the most obvious thing in the world. Like, oh yeah, the fallout from the nuclear wars, of course.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, Christopher Lloyd. I didn't really start to love that line until I saw Mike reacting to it that way. Because when Mike's reaction when we would watch that, he would just howl. And I'd be like, oh man, that is actually a funny line. And, like he says, Christopher Lloyd is just like, of course. It's from all the fallout from the atomic wars.
He's like built this whole scenario in his head, and he's accepted it as fact. I mean, it's like the worst possible future you could imagine, and he's like, "Oh, fallout suits from that." Of course, it's like he's just solved a math problem.
I know. It's like the only reason he would be wearing a radiation suit is because of fallout from nuclear war. Yeah, when
did we see that in the theater? When was that re-released?
They put it out like on the. I think we saw it in the theater in 2000.
It's like 4 or 5 years ago, right?
No, it was like 2010. It was like 25th anniversary.
Oh my god, jeez.
Yeah,
that movie was still great in the theater to watch.
Yeah, it was, and we saw it in like a sold out movie theater.
Oh yeah,
it was packed.
That was actually one of the bigger lines I remember waiting in to get into a movie of all things.
Yeah, I know it was great. It played great to a crowd on a big screen.
Yeah, that was a fun movie. Really creative, really original. It's such a good one. Mike, what do you got? What's next? What are we listening to?
Let's go with number 6.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
I mean, come on.
Oh, man. I'm so glad you picked that. This movie is one of my absolute all-time favorite comedy movies. It's always been with me, and it'll always be with me, this movie.
I mean, and I think it launched Leslie Nielsen's career. But I mean, just it's that literal humor that just works so well.
You nailed it. This is the most endlessly quotable movie ever to be made. Is Airplane.
Oh man,
you can quote almost every minute of this movie separately in different situations.
But a great thing about that movie, I think recently, the other day, I sent you guys a meme where they replaced Leslie Nielsen's face with Obi-Wan or something, and Luke said, surely you can't be serious, and I am serious, but don't call me Shirley. I mean, I think everyone knows what that line is.
Yes. That whole movie, my gosh.
I hope this holds up. You know, I tried to show this to my wife for the first time like 4 or 5 years ago. She'd never seen it, and she absolutely hated it.
What, Airplane?
Airplane.
Oh, well, I mean, it is a completely ridiculous.
It is, and and the humor is specific and not for everybody. But yeah. I hope it holds up to new generations because it's such a good movie. It's such a fun movie.
When Leslie Nielsen smacks that lady who's freaking out. And he goes back for the second smack before he leaves.
Oh yeah, he has to get one in.
So good.
Oh man.
And Barbara Billingsley just speaking jive.
Oh, that's so ridiculous.
I mean, pick your moment. The whole movie is
there's a lot of good
nothing but
stuff
moments
in
that
there.
you could quote. It's so good. All right, I'm going to keep the humor rolling. Then.
Okay.
Hey, Scotty, come on in. Great game out there today. You want a thigh or a wing or something?
No, it's not necessary, Coach. Listen, you know how you always said that if any of us guys have any problems, I mean, even personal ones, that we should come and see you?
Hey, that's what I'm here for.
Great, because, I got a problem.
Oh, yeah? What kind of problem? As you can see, I'm a very busy man here.
Yeah, well, it's kind of complicated.
Oh, those kind of problems, yeah. What is it, drugs? Girls? Boy, I'd sure like to help you, but I'm really tapped out this month. The IRS is breathing down my neck like it's some kind of personal vendetta against Bobby Finstock.
No, Coach, how can I put this? I'm going through changes.
Oh, that. Don't worry about that. We all go through that. Some a little bit later than others. I'm sorry I didn't notice, but I haven't been hanging around the locker room all that much.
No. You see, Coach, I just don't think it's going to be possible for me to play on the team anymore.
Oh, yeah. Well, look, Scotty, I know what you're going through. A couple years back, a kid came to me much the same way you're coming to me now. Saying to me pretty much the same thing that you're saying. He wanted to drop off the team. His mother was a widow, all crippled up. She was scrubbing floors. She had this pin in her hip. So he wanted to drop basketball and get a job. Now, these were poor people. These were hungry people with real problems. You understand what I'm saying?
What happened to the kid?
I don't know. He quit. He's a third stringer. I didn't need him.
Yeah, Coach, I'm a first stringer.
Yeah, and you already got a job working for your old man. Fact of the matter is, I should be coming to you when I need money.
Fine. Thanks a lot, Coach.
Hey, don't mention it. Like I said before, mi casa, su casa.
Oh, Coach Finstock, man.
Coach Bobby Finstock.
I like how he instantly's like, he's like, yeah, that's what I'm here for. And he's like, look, I'm tapped out this month. I can't. There's nothing. Oh.
So Coach Finstock from Teen Wolf, 1985, was one of the massively quoted headset conversations I would have at work over and over. There's so many moments in that movie where Coach Bobby Finstock drops wisdom on his students and his team that is just priceless. And he just always made me laugh. I always thought that Coach Finstock was one of comedy's great characters that always
what's that actor's name?
It's Jay Terez.
Man, what do you do anything else? I mean,
you know, he was famous for he wound up writing like big sitcoms and stuff, like the Bob Newhart Show. Like he was responsible for. Like he was really behind the scenes kind of guy.
Wow.
He really didn't do a ton of acting, and this is one of his bigger roles that he had as an actor. And I love the guy. I think he's
yeah,
brilliant.
He played it really funny.
He sold it really well. Teen Wolf, one of my endlessly quoted movies of all weird movies. Teen Wolf came in there.
Okay, so I'm up next, and this little speech, it sums up quite a bit, and probably sums up why people like us are doing a show like this. And so, go ahead and play it, and we'll see.
It's like in the great stories, Mr. Frodo. The ones that really mattered. Full of darkness and danger they were. And sometimes you didn't want to know the end. Because how could the end be happy? How could the world go back to the way it was when so much bad had happened? But in the end, it's only a passing thing. This shadow. Even darkness must pass. A new day will come. And when the sun shines, it'll shine out the clearer. Those were the stories that stayed with you. That meant something. Even if you were too small to understand why. But I think, Mr. Frodo, I do understand. I know now. Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. They kept going. Because they were holding on to something. What are we holding on to, Sam? That there's some good in this world, Mr. Frodo. And it's worth fighting for.
Hands down, that scene right there is my favorite scene of the entire trilogy. That moment right there. I always go back and I always like to watch that speech. The montages, the music, everything together is an absolute perfect scene for me. And I absolutely love that speech and I love that scene.
Yeah. I think it, like I said, I think it perfectly encapsulates, like, if you really, love a story or love a movie, and like you said, why you like something when you were a kid and didn't even really understand why you liked it. That's why it's probably my favorite movie speech ever. Just because it speaks to what's happening in the film, of course, but it also speaks to like a larger thing outside the movies. Almost kind of, referring back to itself in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, it's funny you say it that way because, Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit for me was a forgotten thing for a lot of time, for like a long time. I had seen the animated Hobbit and I saw all of the animated movies that they had as a kid, but that was a long time ago, and I really forgot about them. They were always kind of there, but I'd forgotten about them, and I forgot about those characters for a long time until I finally picked up and I started to reread those books, and it's like I couldn't believe how much it came rushing back to like what I remember as a kid, and I just completely forgot about them. Especially the Lord of the Rings. The Hobbit was a little more memorable, but like the Lord of the Rings stuff, I completely forgot about. And reading those books for the first time when I was I think I read them when I was in my 20s. I didn't read them until I was in my 20s. Was a great experience, and I've reread them several times. In fact, they're on the docket to reread next. Actually, I'm going to power through them in the Silmarillion. But great books, great movie, and perfect moment.
Yeah.
All right, I've got one more on the list here. I'll throw it up there.
Okay.
Where'd you get that?
From him.
Who, him?
Katanga. I've got a feeling I'm not the first woman to travel with these pirates.
It's lovely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What'd you say?
That's great.
Wait. I don't
Ernie, Neil.
Do. Not the man I knew 10 years ago.
It's not the years, honey. It's the mileage.
Yep.
I mean, that whole scene is so funny. But first off, when he gets hit with the mirror, is one of the great moments of that movie.
Yeah, you hear the scream. They cut to the outside of the ship.
Yeah.
Like, "Ah!"
But it's an ad-libbed line. It's not the years, honey. It's the mileage. That was a Harrison Ford edition of that movie. But it's what's so great about Raiders, which is my favorite movie of all time, is that you get little tidbits like that, which for just a quick one-off line, you learn so much about the characters, who they are.
Yeah.
And that's what makes a good movie, when you get lines like that, which give you so much backstory that you don't need to know the answer, but you just understand that he's been through a lot. It's just that's why, I love Raiders. I can't wait till my son is old enough where I can show him Raiders and he's going to tell me how awful it is. But I really love that movie. And I love that line. I think that line sums up Indiana Jones to a T.
Yeah, that's great. Fantastic.
All right.
Mike is going to close it out for us here.
Clip 10.
Oh, clip 10.
This is when you talk about great movie quotes. This has everything you could ever possibly want.
Okay, here we go.
Quote. So roll it.
Oh my God. I'm back. I'm home. All the time. We finally really did it. You maniacs! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Oh, so good.
Man, he needed a radiation suit.
I mean,
what year did Planet of the Apes come out?
68, I think.
Yeah. That was, you go through this whole movie, and you think he's on a different planet. And then and that was something they added, because Rod Serling wrote the screenplay, and apparently he did not like that twist ending.
Really? That's what made the movie?
Yeah, and he was against that. That's what
I didn't know that. That movie would not have been half that movie.
I think Rod Serling, the author of the book, hated the ending.
I thought Serling did.
No, Serling wrote that ending.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Either way, that movie would not have been nearly as memorable if that hadn't been the end. Not even close.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like it's a good movie without it. I think, even if they hadn't had it, it was a great movie. But then that just kind of it's like
another level. It's next level
like
stuff.
Cheesecake. You've had this great meal, and they're like, hey, we're just going to give you this slice of cheesecake for free. And you're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's true. That was, equally as impactful as the Tim Burton remake with the Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah.
What? Oh, man. Who knows? That's a great mystery that's never going to be solved.
Did we see that in the theater?
Me and Jared did.
No, this was before I met you.
What year was that?
That was terrible. 2000.
Oh, God, that's bad.
Yeah. Initially I think I enjoyed it, but the more it sat with me, I was like, this doesn't really make any sense at all. So, but yeah, man, that's a great way to close out this episode of some of our favorite movie quotes of all time. And thank you all for joining us for the season 4 premiere of The Hyperspace. And like we said earlier, we've got a bunch of cool stuff in the pipeline ready for you to enjoy, and we hope that you do. So yeah, guys, you got anything to say here before we sign off of the season 4 premiere?
We've got some great stuff. We've got great content. We've got a YouTube channel that we drop some fun stuff on that you won't catch on the podcast. Check out thehyperspace.net also. Pick up some merchandise. You need a shirt.
Yeah,
Everyone needs a shirt.
Definitely need a shirt.
You drink coffee? Drink it out of our mug. Come on. Help the podcast out. You know why? Because we're the only podcast that exists.
That's it.
You want this thing to kick off and catch fire? We need your help.
We're the only one. So, yeah.
But if nothing else, don't buy some merch. Just share it. share our podcast and let other people know about us.
Share
because,
the show.
The more it gets around, the happier we are because it makes us feel that we're doing something with our lives.
That's right.
But season 4, guys, we have some great stuff. You're going to enjoy it. Every Monday we're dropping a new episode, so stay tuned, everybody. We'll be back.
Peace out.
You know you can't live without this content. So subscribe to The Hyperspace, podcasting in the 25th century. Follow us on social media, leave us a review, and join us next time as we take you into the 25th century.